Hey viewers, welcome to African Tales by Afi. Please kindly click the subscribe button to get notified for more amazing stories. The sky over the town of Afunwa was dark and full of clouds. It was one of those evenings where the wind whispered secrets, and the trees rustled like they were trying to speak. Most people were home, warming themselves with hot food and sweet songs from the radio. But in a quiet corner behind a bakery, beside a large blue dumpster, someone lay very still. A girl. Thin. Barefoot. Clothes torn. Unconscious. And no one saw her. No one, except Oba. Oba wasn't just anyone. He was the richest man in Afunwa. His house was as big as the town hall. He had 10 cars, a fountain that danced, and even a pet parrot that could say, "Welcome, welcome," to guests. But Oba was also a man who had everything, yet still felt empty. That evening, Oba was driving himself, something he rarely did. He had just left a long, boring party and wanted fresh air. As he turned into a small street near the bakery to take a shortcut, his headlights caught something unusual. "Eh? What's that?" Oba said, stepping on the brakes. He got out of the car quickly and walked over. There, lying on the ground like a broken doll, was the girl. Her face was dirty, her hands scraped. Oba bent down. "She's breathing," he whispered, his heart pounding. "But she's so cold." Without thinking twice, Oba took off his coat and wrapped her in it. "Young lady," he said softly, "can you hear me?" The girl did not answer. "Don't worry. You're safe now," Oba said. He lifted her gently, placed her in the back seat, and drove off, his heart filled with questions. When Mommy woke up, she was in a soft bed that smelled like rose petals. The room was bright, with long white curtains, flowers on the windowsill, and a golden-framed mirror. Where am I?" she whispered. "You're safe," said a voice. She turned quickly. It was Oba, standing by the door with a tray of food, hot yam porridge, fried plantains, and fresh juice. "I'm Oba. I found you last night. You were lying near a dumpster," he said gently. "A dumpster?" Lami blinked, confused. I remember running. Then nothing." "You don't have to remember everything now," Oba said, walking over. "What's your name?" She hesitated. "Lami." "That's a beautiful name," Oba smiled. "Well, Miss Lami, I'd like to help you. But first, you need to eat and rest." Lami stared at him. "Why are you helping me? You don't even know me." Oba sat on the chair beside her. "Because I've been helped before too. Once, long ago, I was alone. Someone gave me a chance. Now, it's my turn to do the same." Tears welled up in Lami's eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "No need to thank me yet. Let's get you back on your feet," he said, offering her a spoon. She took it, her hands still shaking. Over the next few days, Lami began to grow stronger. She ate, slept, and even smiled a little. She explored the mansion slowly, at first like a scared cat, then like someone remembering what joy felt like. Oba would visit her every evening. "So," he said one night, "what do you like? Music? Painting? Dancing?" Lami giggled. "Dancing. But only when no one's watching." "Well," Oba said, standing up, "lucky for you, I'm terrible at dancing. So you'll have to teach me." She laughed. You're joking. I'm serious. Come on, let's both dance badly together. They twirled around the room, laughing like two children who had never known sadness. One morning, Lami stood in front of a mirror wearing a dress the housekeeper had picked out for her. Oba walked in and stopped. "Wow," he said softly. "You look like someone who belongs in a castle." She turned slowly. "I feel like someone who belongs somewhere again." He nodded. "Then stay." "What?" "Stay here. As long as you want. You have a room. Food. Safety. I can even help you start school, or whatever dream you once had." Lami's voice shook. "No one has ever offered me anything like this before." "Then let this be the beginning," Oba said, holding out his hand. She took it. And just like that, something changed in both of them. Every hallway in Oba's mansion sparkled like a treasure chest. The floors were polished like mirrors, and chandeliers hung from the ceiling like upside-down trees made of diamonds. At first, she tiptoed like a mouse, afraid to break something just by breathing too hard. But Oba was always calm and warm. "Don't worry about looking like you belong," he would say. "You do belong." Lami had lived a hard life before this. She had run from a home that had never felt like home. People had called her useless. They had shouted at her more times than they had smiled. The streets were not kind, and her memories were heavy. But this place? It was new. Strange. Safe. One evening, Oba knocked gently on her door. "Are you up for a walk in the garden?" Lami peeked out. "Is it okay if I wear this?" She was in a simple dress with a flower print. "You could wear a potato sack and still look royal," Oba chuckled. Lami laughed, a full, honest laugh that made her cheeks stretch wide. That laugh surprised even her. They walked slowly through the garden. Butterflies danced above their heads, and the air smelled of fresh mint and orange trees. "This place is like a dream," Lami whispered. Oba looked at her. "And you are fully awake in it." She looked down. "Why me, Oba? There are so many people out there who need help. Why did you stop for me that night?" Oba paused. "Because I saw something in you. Not fear. Not weakness. But strength. Even lying unconscious, you looked like someone fighting to stay alive." Lami's eyes watered. "No one's ever said that to me." "Well, I just did," Oba said softly. They sat on a wooden bench by the fish pond. Koi fish glided beneath the water like painted whispers. "I used to come here as a boy," Oba said. "Before the money. Before the cars. I lived in the servants' quarters with my mother. She worked here as a cook." Lami's eyes widened. "Really?" He nodded. "I didn't grow up rich. I earned my way here. But even when I got all this," he waved his hand around, "I still felt something was missing." "What was it?" she asked. "A reason. A purpose. Someone to share it with." Lami looked at him. Their eyes locked for a moment. Then she looked away quickly, heart thudding. The days passed like pages in a storybook. Lami learned how to paint. Oba had hired a kind old woman named Mama Fujiro to teach her. She also met Ter, Oba's housekeeper, who treated her like a daughter. "You're not just a guest here," Ter said one morning as she braided Lami's hair. "You're a seed. and I can already see you blooming. Sometimes, Lami would wake up in the middle of the night and stare at the ceiling. Can I really become someone new? She whispered to herself. But the next morning, Oba would greet her with a smile and say, "Come on, we have a world to explore." And she would believe again. One rainy afternoon, as they both sat in the music room, Oba asked gently, "Do you ever think about going back to where you came from?" Lami frowned. "There's nothing for me there." "No family?" She shook her head. "My aunt used to tell me I was a burden. I slept on the floor, ate leftovers. She said I would never be anything." Oba's eyes narrowed. "Well, she was wrong. You're already something. You're someone. And your future is still being written." Lami's lip trembled. "I don't know who I'm supposed to be, Oba." "You don't have to know now," he said. "We'll find out together." Then he did something surprising. He handed her a key. "What's this?" "It opens the little cottage by the east garden. I want you to turn it into anything you like, an art room, a library, a space that's yours." Lami stared at him. "You're giving me my own space?" "I'm giving you something I never had until I was older, freedom." Tears spilled from her eyes. "Thank you." And that night, for the first time in years, Lami slept peacefully, not because she was tired, but because she was home. The sun had barely risen when Lami skipped across the stone path leading to her new cottage. A small, quiet place with big windows and wildflowers around the door. Oba had it freshly painted in soft yellow, like sunshine after rain. Inside, the room smelled of pine and promise. "This is mine," Lami whispered to herself, spinning around with joy. "A place where I can start again." She decorated the space with her paintings, poems scribbled on paper, and the tiny woven mat she made with Mama Fujiro's help. Every brushstroke, every word, every piece of thread was her own voice finally being heard. Later that day, as she watered the plants outside, Oba came by holding a basket. "Breakfast delivery," he called out playfully. She giggled. "You? The billionaire who owns half the city, bringing breakfast in a basket?" "Why not?" he grinned. "Even billionaires enjoy spreading butter on bread." They sat on the wooden steps, sharing hot akara and spicy yam. Lami wiped her hands on her wrapper and looked at him. "Do people ever say bad things about you, Oba? Because you help someone like me?" He paused, chewing thoughtfully. "Yes. Some people think I'm foolish. Others say I'm being used." "And what do you think?" He smiled gently. "I think kindness doesn't need permission." Lami looked at him for a long moment. Her heart beat fast in a way she didn't understand. Was this what people called love? Or was it simply the safety of being seen? Before she could speak, Oba cleared his throat. "Lami, next week is the Founders' Ball. It's a yearly event at the mansion everyone in the city attends. I'd like you to come." "Me?" Lami blinked. "Yes. As my guest." She panicked. "But I've never been to a fancy event before. I don't have the right clothes, or shoes, or..." He placed a hand gently on hers. "Don't worry about any of that. All I need is you." The next few days were like a dream. Tear brought fabrics of gold and lavender. Mama Fujiro tutored Lami on posture and poise. You must lift your chin like a queen, Mama Fajiro teased. But not too high, or people will think you're smelling pepper. They all laughed until tears rolled down their cheeks. On the night of the ball, Lami stood in front of a full-length mirror. Her dress shimmered like moonlight, and her hair was wrapped in delicate silver beads. Oba stood by the door, speechless. You look, he began, but words failed him. Like I belong? She asked softly. He nodded. More than anyone I've ever seen. They walked into the ballroom side by side. Music floated in the air like magic. People whispered, some smiling, others sneering. Who's the girl with Oba? She doesn't belong here. She's beautiful, but where's she from? But Lami held her head high. Because for the first time, she knew who she was becoming. Oba led her to the dance floor. They twirled gently under the lights. Lami, he said, have you ever wondered why I found you that day? She nodded. I do. Every single night. I believe it was fate, he said. I've spent years building this life. But none of it felt complete until I met you. Her eyes welled with tears. Oba, are you saying? He took her hand, gently. I'm saying I care about you. Deeply. And I think maybe, just maybe, we were meant to heal each other. Lami was quiet for a long moment. Then she whispered, I've never had anyone say they loved me without wanting something in return. I don't want anything but your truth, Oba said. Just as she opened her mouth to reply, a loud voice echoed from across the ballroom. Lami? Is that you? They turned. A woman in a bright red gown stormed toward them. Lami froze. Her face turned pale. Auntie Igioma, she whispered. Oba stepped closer protectively. I raised this girl, the woman shouted. She ran off and left me, and now she's walking around here like she's some rich madam? The crowd gasped. Lami looked down, ashamed. Is this true? Oba asked gently. Lami nodded slowly, heart pounding. Yes, but there's more to it. She wasn't kind to me, Oba. I was nothing but a servant in her house. Auntie Igioma laughed. That's what she tells you? Lies. Oba turned to her calmly. Even if it was true, what right do you have to shame her now? She's mine. Auntie yelled. You can't just take her in and make her something she's not. Oba looked at Lami and said with great warmth, she's not yours. She's her own. And she is becoming someone greater than you ever let her be. Silence filled the room. A tear rolled down Lami's cheek. Thank you, she whispered. Oba held her hand tighter. Always. And right there, in front of everyone, Lami stood tall, not because of the dress, or the dance, or the mansion, but because she finally knew. She was no longer a girl beside a dumpster. She was a woman walking toward her destiny. The night after the ball felt like a storm had passed. Lami lay in bed, staring at the ceiling of her little yellow cottage. Her heart was full, but also afraid. Auntie Igioma's voice still echoed in her head. She's mine. Oba had stood up for her. Again. But what if more people from her past showed up? What if she wasn't strong enough to face them all? A knock interrupted her thoughts. She opened the door to find Oba standing there, holding a tray with tea. I thought you could use something warm, he said with a soft smile. She took the tray. Thank you. They sat outside on the wooden step under the stars. The night was quiet. Just crickets, the distant hoot of an owl, and two hearts trying to find the right words. Are you okay? Oba asked. I should be, Lami said. You defended me. Everyone saw it. But you still feel afraid? She nodded. Lami, no one gets to define you by who you used to be. The real question is, who do you believe you are now? She sipped her tea. I think I'm someone who wants to be free. To make art. To teach children. To give people what I never had. Oba beamed. Then that's who you are. And that's someone worth standing by. She placed her hand over his. You changed my life, Oba. You gave me a home and a voice. I don't know how I'll ever repay you. He chuckled. Then you haven't been listening. You gave me life. You gave me purpose. You taught me how to feel again. They looked into each other's eyes. And this time, there was no confusion. It was love. Not the kind that comes with flowers or diamonds. But the kind that finds you in the dark, beside a dumpster, and refuses to let go. Weeks passed. Lami started a small art school in the neighborhood with Oba's help. Children of all ages came, some with no shoes, some with big dreams. One afternoon, a little girl tugged on Lami's skirt. Auntie Lami, how did you become so special? She smiled and knelt down. Because someone believed in me. And then, I believed in myself. One day, Mama Fajiro, Ter, and a few neighbors gathered in Oba's garden for a small party. There was laughter, jollof rice, and dancing under lanterns. Oba stood and tapped a glass. I have something to say, he began. Everyone hushed. He turned to Lami, his eyes glowing. You came into my life like a whisper. I never expected to find joy in someone who had nothing, but ended up giving me everything. He pulled out a small velvet box. Lami gasped. No pressure, he said quickly. But I wanted to ask, will you build a life with me? Not just in this mansion, but in every corner of the world we create together? Lami covered her mouth, her eyes wet. Yes, she whispered. 1,000 times, yes. The crowd cheered, Mama Fajiro shouted, Aya! My baby girl is getting married. Ter cried and danced at the same time. Even the old gardener wiped away a tear. It wasn't a royal wedding. There were no golden carriages or kings. But when Lami walked down the garden path in a simple lace dress, barefoot, holding flowers picked from her own garden, she looked more regal than any queen. And Oba, in a simple white kaftan, waited with tears in his eyes. When they joined hands under the blooming hibiscus tree, the birds above them sang as if they knew. A love born in brokenness had bloomed into beauty. In the years that followed, the mansion became more than a home. It became a haven. Lami's art school expanded. Orphans and dreamers found shelter. Oba and Lami adopted children who needed love. People stopped whispering about that girl by the dumpster. Now, they said, that's Lami, the woman with the heart of gold. And whenever Lami stood at her garden gate, watching the sun rise over the mansion and the school, she would hold Oba's hand and whisper. From the dirt, something beautiful grew. And Oba would reply, always. That something was you. Hello tribe, hope we enjoyed today's story. Please kindly put what you've learned in the comments section. Please remember to hit the like button, share this to your friends and family as well as subscribe to see you on the next one. Bye.